Hey there, Jason Cress for UNB Sports Information. September 28th to the 30th, UNB will be playing host to the annual Helen Campbell Tournament. Mrs. Campbell was a very passionate and kind woman who was a huge supporter of UNB basketball. If Mrs. Campbell was unable to attend a game, it was said she could be found sitting next to a radio listening to the game. Though she's no longer with us, it is still evident that Mrs. Campbell is a huge supporter of UNB sports, with a Helen Neal Campbell Athletic Enrichment Fund, established in 1990. The purpose of this fund is to provide unique opportunities to varsity teams. Not only was Mrs. Campbell a huge supporter of UNB sports, she was also a member of the UNB Red Bloomers basketball team. Unfortunately though, Mrs. Campbell was unable to see a game in the tournament that was named after her. Had she been able to, she would have been honored. Teams competing in the tournament this year will be UQAM, Alberta, Acadia, and UNB. Action starts for UNB on the 28th at 6 p.m. as they face off against UQAM. Their next game is on the 29th at 6 p.m. as they face off against Alberta. They wrap up the tournament on the 30th at 1 p.m. as they face off against Acadia. Of note, both Acadia and Alberta were in the top 10 in the CIS rankings at the end of last year. I had a chance to sit down and talk with Coach Jeff Speedy and get his thoughts on what fans can expect to see from his team this tournament. Check it out. Hey there, I'm with Coach Jeff Speedy. Coach, thanks for taking the time to meet with me today.
My pleasure.
So you have the Helen Campbell tournament this weekend. What can we expect to see from your team?
That's a really good question. We've got 7 new players, so I'm kind of a little curious what you're going to see from my team as well. We've had 10 or 12 practices, haven't had any games, just a couple of scrimmages, so when we get under the bright lights and the referees and the crowd, I'm not sure how we're going to react because we're so new and we're so young. But you know, we're going to try and rebound the ball way better than last year, try and defend way better than last year, and certainly everybody knows we play and like to play an up-tempo style of basketball. So I certainly hope you'll see us trying to do those things really well. So you're facing some stiff competition this tournament with Acadia and Alberta, both who were ranked in the top 10 at the end of the rankings last year. How have your preparations been going for these two? Well, it's so early. You know, we could be playing the Celtics, and I probably wouldn't really worry a whole lot about our opponent. Acadia won our conference last year. They graduated 2 of their best players, but they have a couple of very, very good players coming in that we haven't really seen. So not really spending a lot of time preparing for either of those 2 teams specifically. They're both very, very good teams. They both have a great chance of being ranked in the top 10 again this year. But it's just so early. We're just really trying to worry about our own stuff, our own things. And you know, for the whole month of October, all of our preseason games really, we spend far less time than we would in November, January, February on scouting our opponent. We're just trying to focus on us and the process of us getting better and worrying about the things we want to do.
For this tournament, who are you expecting to step up?
Individually on my team?
Yeah.
I would think some of the older players, you know, Melissa Foster, who started for us last year, Claire Colburn, who was an all-star in the AUS last year. You know, certainly expect the 2 of them to have great weekends. And then we have, you know, probably 2 of the players that will start, Tilly Ettinger and Laura Fowler, but they're veteran players.
Who has been your hardest worker thus far?
Oh boy, other than me, of course.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I don't know, that would be tough to really pick one player because that would kind of be unfair to the other 15. I've really liked what we've done on the court work ethic-wise so far. But, you know, forced to pick one, I'd probably pick Tilly Ettinger, our transfer from University of Calgary that practiced with us last year and redshirted with us last year. She's been phenomenal in practice. We've had some injuries in practice, as you always do in preseason, so there's been hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes practices where she didn't get to sub off and didn't get a rest at all. And if there's any player we have that seems to talk and try and get us organized the most on the court, it would probably be her. So, you know, Claire's done a great job being verbal and helping the young players, and Melissa's always very talkative and hardworking, but Tilly's, you know, I think day in and day out, and certainly for an entire hour and a half, hour and 45-minute practice, I think Tilly's been very impressive with what she's brought to the court effort-wise every day.
Last question. Who has been chosen to be the captain of your team, or captains?
We have 2 captains this year. Laura Fowler and Claire Colburn are our 2 captains. The staff selected them. We didn't do a player vote, which is, you know, I've been coaching for 20-some years and done it 1,000 different ways over the years, but We've got some other leaders, Melissa Foster, Allie Chalk, our 2 fifth-year players, and Tilly, who I've talked about a couple times, our point guard. They're leaders, and they'll certainly have to do leadership things for us to be successful. But for a lot of reasons, Claire and Laura were selected captains, and no doubt they'll do a great job.
Coach, thanks for taking the time today for this interview.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Best of luck during the tournament, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Great. Thanks.
For more information on our women's basketball team and other varsity sports found here at UNB, go to vreds.ca. For UNB Sports Information, this is Coach Jeff Speedy, and I'm Jason Cress. See you at the game.